All right. So, first article, this is by Joe Boland, and this is researchers try to nail down the ideal amount of sleep. So, sleep is such a huge thing. This is one of my big tools that I talk about when it comes to health. All right, you have to sleep. I know so many people who don't get enough sleep, and it's interesting because you especially when you get to know them, they could be family, and there are people in my immediate circles in my family that they go to sleep 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning on a regular basis, and they'll tell you, oh yeah, I get sleep, I get sleep. But then when you really ask for sleep, literally while I'm talking to them, and I'm like, okay, what is going on? Well, the point is they're not really getting enough sleep. It's basically that is what it is. So and it can lead to all types of things, including eventually the onset of dementia, Alzheimer's disease, that type of thing. So it's a big potential risk for those things. So these are research, a 2022 study. It was published in Nature Aging. And it turns out that they were actually able to determine the recommended amount of sleep, or the ideal recommended amount of sleep that people need for middle-aged people and older. Now, this is key because most of the folks that don't get enough sleep are usually middle-aged or older, right? Because we all know kids can sleep, especially teenagers. I have a teenager in my house, and let me tell you, this girl can sleep. Okay. It's interesting because I didn't sleep the way she does when I was a teenager. And for me, it was only because I felt that if I slept, even on weekends, if I slept past 9 o'clock, I felt that I was missing the day. But, my daughter can sleep right till noon. I mean, like with no problem. And, but I know that when you're growing, obviously you do need a lot more sleep, right? Kids need a lot more sleep than adults do. But it's amazing how teenagers can sleep these days. Those of you who have teenagers, I'm sure you can attest to that. So let's talk a little bit about this article. Again, brand new information on this. This was analyzing more than 500,000 participants in the UK Biobank Health Study, ages 38 to 73. The researchers found that 7 hours of sleep among this age group was the ideal amount of sleep to support cognition and mental health. And here's why it's interesting. Because the data showed that participants who slept less than 7 hours a night, and those who slept more than the optimal amount, so those who slept more than, let's say 8 or 9 hours per night, they seem to have more difficulty in learning and remembering new things, solving problems, making decisions, and paying. It looks like getting too little sleep is not good, but getting too much sleep is not good either, right? So especially, again, we're looking at middle-aged and older adults. I know for myself, 6.5 to 7 hours for me seems to be the ideal time. And that's just me. And my body even on weekends, will wake me up, very, very early for whatever reason. But yeah, that's good for me. Now, everybody's different, obviously, but I've noticed that if I get a lot more sleep than I need, like let's say 8 or 9 hours, I actually feel more tired than normal. So it's very interesting how this works. But out of a quote out of this study, they said that we found a beneficial association with cognitive function and mental health with a sleep duration of approximately 7 hours in the middle-aged to older adults. So 7 hours seems to be the key that they found in this study, which is interesting. Now, while the results show that 7 hours of sleep appears to be the sweet spot for optimal health and brain health, the researchers emphasize that the results exhibit a nonlinear association, not necessarily a direct connection. Okay, so they're basically saying that it may not directly correlate, but it seems to be roundabout a good figure. And again, I mean, they normally say 8 hours is optimal, but again, not everybody exactly needs 8 hours because everybody's different. But seems to be 7 hours seems to be the right thing here. So they also give some tips for better sleep. So I'll go over those really quick. Obviously, they talk about the simple stuff that pretty much we all know, right? Foods, and making sure you're eating good foods and not eating before dinner. That's a huge one. That's a big one. But things like calcium, magnesium, essential oil for sleep, including bergamot and lavender, passion flower, valerian root. I've used that in the past. St. John's wort, You can try sleep meditations, and you can also take melatonin. I take melatonin myself. Now, one of the things that I have a disagreement with on in this article is they say you'll be careful not to take melatonin every night for a long period of time because research shows that taking too much melatonin can be risky. And this is why I have a disagreement with that because first of all, I've taken melatonin for years. I mean, I probably for a good 10 years. My wife has taken melatonin. But if you really look at the work of Dr. Russell Ryder, he's a PhD and he's a world-class expert on melatonin. This guy has been, he knows melatonin inside and out. And he discusses some of the biological activities and health benefits of melatonin. He's actually written 1,600 papers to his credit and has 3 honorary Doctor of Medicine degrees. And he has published more studies on melatonin than anyone else alive. Think about that. He's published more studies on melatonin than anyone. He's 86 years old. He himself has said that he takes about 80 milligrams of melatonin per night. And he's completely cognitively there, no issues. Okay. So, and you have to understand, again, realize why melatonin is so powerful, okay? Because melatonin is one of the most important antioxidant molecules that you have in your body, right? It's people think of melatonin just for sleep, but it's not just for sleep. Melatonin, and more research is coming out on it, and he actually talks about it a lot. I definitely, would recommend you check out his research, but he talks about the how melatonin is an antioxidant, how melatonin is actually in your mitochondria. You have mitochondrial melatonin, and then you have melatonin in your brain that's secreted by the pineal gland. And it's in the human body, melatonin is not only has independent direct antioxidant effects, but it also stimulates the synthesis of glutathione, okay, and other important antioxidants like superoxide dismutase and catalase. And you have to remember that as we age, the pineal gland and the mitochondria make less melatonin, okay? So it diminishes, especially when you get into your 40s and 50s. So, when you supplement with it, number one, it's going to help you sleep better. And number two, it's going to help to neutralize those free radicals. Now, you can say that you do have to adjust a little bit because if you find that you are taking a lot, it can make you more tired as you get older. That's true. Or you can make you more tired as you get up in the morning, right? So you do have to adjust to it and see what your sweet spot for melatonin is. But just to say that taking it too much can be harmful, that's the research just doesn't support that because there's tons and tons and tons of study out there that talks about the benefits of melatonin in many, many ways, even in cancer. They've talked about it even with cancer patients. So definitely look at melatonin as well. And again, adjust for yourself as far as what you need. Now, kids, I don't recommend take melatonin because usually they don't need melatonin. Usually kids can make an abundance of melatonin. That, again, why teenagers can sleep, all night, all the way up till noon, right? So it helps them, very much so. But other little things they talk about is exercising, adjusting your diet, and also blue light exposure. That's another thing you want to make sure that you are getting a handle on. Blue lights coming from your phones, blue lights coming from computers, and obviously the light from your television. Make sure your room is as dark as possible and try to adjust as far as making sure you're not looking at those blue lights. A lot of people sit there or lay there in their beds looking at their screens with the blue light hitting them, and that's actually stopping the melatonin from working properly and actually damaging your eyes before, which you don't want anyway. But so just some things to think about when you're looking at sleep. Sleep is the way you detoxify. Sleep is the way you rejuvenate and everything repairs. So sleep is extremely important. So good research on this. 7 hours of sleep seems to be the sweet spot for these folks. I'm sure there's going to be more and more research on this, but this is a good start for that.